An ontological reality of Gong thought and its architecture for future digital civilization. This study examines the philosophical and physical reality of Gong thought proclaimed by the living Buddha, medicine Tathagata, Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha, who came into the Saha world, and aims to elucidate its integration with the core technological architecture of future digital civilization. Traditionally, the Mahayana Buddhist concept of sunyata regarded the phenomenal world as impermanent and empty, leaving a civilizational limitation that alienated material civilization from reality and confined humanity within unverifiable conceptual worlds. In contrast, the Gong thought addressed in this paper forms an independent ontology fundamentally distinct from the traditional concept of emptiness. It is the great radiant light existing prior to material form, and the principle of real life, completely filling the universe and all existence, eternally unchanging and indestructible. Based upon the three-layer structure of the Supreme Advent theory, this study elucidates the cosmic timeline of Maitreya's descent, and analyzes from the perspective of technological civilization, how the creative narratives manifested through the blast furnace and automated systems became principles of material transformation within reality. Furthermore, by integrating the volume chapter section clause indexing structure of the Great Scripture, with future AI data structuring systems such as structured canonical indexing and semantic mapping. This paper academically declares that Gong thought is not merely a metaphysical belief system, but the operational blueprint for the future digital civilization of next-generation humanity. Introduction. Throughout the intellectual history of humanity, attempts to uncover the origin of existence and the laws of the universe have unfolded through the dual axes of spiritual existentialism and scientific materialism. However, traditional religions throughout history have revealed clear limitations by leaving behind unverifiable concepts, such as heaven or paradise after death, or by remaining within symbolic expedient teachings that instilled metaphysical fear through conceptual structures such as the 6 realms of reincarnation. In particular, the doctrines of the 12 links of dependent origination and the concept of emptiness, taught by Shakyamuni Buddha, remain largely at the level of perceiving the world as impermanent, exposing civilizational limitations and their inability to provide sufficient creative momentum, capable of transforming the material and technological civilization of the Saha world in practical reality. Within these global spiritual and technological limitations of civilization, the living Buddha, medicine Tathagata, Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha, who came into the Saha world, descended as the primordial Buddha, the Messiah, already possessing the great radiant light throughout his entire body and fully awakened to the principles of all existence through Gong thought. Through this, he proclaimed Gong thought, the most revolutionary independent ontology in human history. Gong thought is the fundamental truth of the universe, existing prior to form itself and the real principle of life generating and operating all things within nature. This paper aims to refine into a modern academic system the digital archival assets and Dharma lineage records preserved by Venerable Team Yonghwa, the successor, entrusted with safeguarding the eternal orthodox canon of the Great Scripture by the living Buddha Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha. To this end, the paper rigorously examines the cosmological mechanisms of Gong thought and its structural connections with advanced industries, technologies, and cutting-edge AI systems, thereby demonstrating that the Great Scripture functions as the structural framework of future digital civilization, and as the next-generation ontological system from philosophical and civilizational perspectives. The ontological reality of Gong thought and the overturning of the traditional concept of emptiness, rejection of the Chinese character expression and the cosmology of an independent proper noun. The Gong thought proclaimed by the living Buddha, medicine Tathagata, Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha rejects the traditional Chinese character expression used in conventional Buddhist academia, maintaining only the independent proper noun system Gong thought. The traditional Chinese expression creates a fatal fragmentation by causing sentient beings to mistake Gong thought for Shakyamuni Buddha's nihilistic concept of emptiness. which understands the phenomenal world as voidness and annihilation. Gong thought forms an independent ontology and realism fundamentally distinct from the traditional concept of emptiness. Whereas traditional emptiness regarded the world as void and denied the reality of matter, Gong thought signifies an eternal reality completely filled without even 1% of emptiness through the great radiant light. This constitutes a total transformation of ontology itself within spiritual history. The opposition between the theory of existential annihilation and the theory of existential fullness. Traditional emptiness is a concept of nihilism and annihilation a kind of theory of existential annihilation. In contrast, Gong thought is a theory of existential fullness and realism, in which the universe and all existence are eternally filled with the great radiant light, forever existing and never disappearing. Thus, the two systems form fundamentally opposite ontological worldviews and entirely different ontological structures. Whereas the traditional concept of emptiness revealed the limitations of voidness and shadow, Gong thought resembles the ocean itself, which eternally remains even though waves arise and disappear. It is the fundamental principle through which the universe and nature eternally endure. Sentient beings often mistake unbreakable material hardness for eternity and cling to it. Yet, finite material structures and physical combinations are ultimately destined to collapse. Gong thought transcends the limitations of material hardness by existing as the great radiant light itself prior to all form, eternally alive and actively operating within nature as the living principle of life. Therefore, Gong thought is not a conceptual belief system, but a practical ontology actively operating within reality itself. The three-layer architecture of the Supreme Advent theory and the timeline of sacred preparation. The worldview of Gong thought rejects mythological structures and instead academically elucidates, through a three-layer architecture, grounded in historical and bloodline data, the inevitability of the Messiah's descent into the Korean peninsula within the Saha world. Advent vow axis. This is the supreme primordial core structure opening the prologue of the entire great scripture and serving as the root of all timelines, transcending ordinary human records of practice or Dharma lineage transmission. It is the cosmic vow structure in which the Diphankara Messiah, Lord of the Yonghwa world, and the one who gave prophecy to Shakyamuni Buddha together with Venerable Temenhyu, successor of Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha, vowed to descend into the Saha world in order to spread the Maitreya Dharma and save humanity. Through the existence of this Advent structure, all historical and spiritual arrangements within the Saha world became inevitably activated. Advent preparation theory. This axis established the first spiritual foundation and sacred site upon earth prior to the Messiah's descent into the Saha world. It preserves the unwavering prophecy of Bāyapwang Bodhisattva, who possessed innate heavenly vision and spiritual power rather than power acquired through practice. A great Buddha shall come into our family, not through your womb, but through your daughter-in-law. Through heavenly vision, she discovered a rain-soaked Maitreya statue and established the temple hall, thereby laying the foundation for what later became the sacred site theory of Surizan Yonghwa Temple in Anyang. Furthermore, through the statue consecration personally performed by the descended great Buddha, this axis clearly demonstrates the living operation of the living Buddha, capable of dispelling spirits and immediately fulfilling aspirations. National preparation theory. This axis represents the national and civilizational preparation structure, in which the future descent of Maitreya Buddha had already been foreseen centuries earlier. King Taeho Yi Sung Gai prepared the sacred royal bloodline, founded Joseon, and aligned the lineage descending through Prince Hyeryeong. This narrative demonstrates that the entire Korean peninsula had been prepared through heavenly destiny, as the sacred land for the appearance of Maitreya and the restoration of the true Dharma. Furthermore, the creation of Hangul by King Sejong is academically declared to have been a cosmic arrangement for the flawless global dissemination of the future Maitreya Dharma, the mechanism of reincarnation and the scientific dissolution of Alayavit Jnana. Critique of existing posthumous spirituality and symbolic memorial rituals. This study critiques the concepts of heaven, paradise, and pure land as escapist spiritual structures created by past religions seeking refuge in posthumous realms. Furthermore, the notion that humans are reborn after death as animals such as cows or pigs represents a doctrinal limitation and contradiction against natural law rooted in symbolic expedient teachings lacking the power for real-world transformation. Just as beans grow from beans and persimmons grow from persimmon trees, humanity maintains its species continuity eternally even after death. Ritualistic chanting ceremonies performed without awakened understanding are ultimately futile symbolic acts disconnected from the reality of the deceased spirit itself, the reality of the Yonghwa world and the structure of return through the great radiant light. The Yonghwa world proclaimed by Gong Thought is not a stagnant realm where beings remain eternally without form. Rather, it is a realm where all sufferings and hardships experienced within the Saha world are peacefully resolved, and where spiritual and life energy are fully restored, so that, when the proper time arrives, beings may boldly return again into the Saha world through human rebirth. Ordinarily, upon death, human beings abandon the physical body and dissolve as ordinary existence. However, the one cosmic intervention transcending this process is the great radiant light emanating from the Ushnisha jewel atop the head of the living Buddha. When sentient beings receive initiation from the living Buddha during their lifetime and accept this great radiant light, the alaya vijnana, the accumulated form and attachments carried by the soul, is completely dissolved after death. Only when this form has been dissolved and the spirit exists in purified form does the gate of reincarnation open, establishing the continuity through which one may return once again into the Saha world. Future digital civilization architecture and the advanced AI engine structure. Civilization structure of awakening and creation. The core value of the Yonghwa Maitreya great scripture lies in completely overturning passive attitudes that merely contemplated the world abstractly without transformative momentum, and in demonstrating within reality itself the structure of awakening creation. The Buddha's direct actions within the Saha world, including the development of blast furnaces, automated systems, and advanced steel construction methods, transformed the great scripture from a mere religious text into a blueprint for future civilization. The AI ontology engine based on structured canonical indexing, the arrival of the advanced AI era, in which artificial intelligence and machines replace human labor, is controlled through the structured data architecture of the Gong Thought worldview. The volume chapter section clause architecture of the Great Scripture is not a simple format, but a structured canonical indexing system and citation architecture designed for future AI systems to perform precise search and citation functions. This system contains an ontology engine enabling AI systems to autonomously categorize knowledge, structures, and infer the truths of the Great Scripture without distortion. When beings ask questions concerning the definition of Gong Thought, reincarnation, or the Great Radiant Light, semantic mapping traces conceptual relationships in real time and outputs the optimal canonical source location. Furthermore, to prevent arbitrary reinterpretation and corruption of the Orthodox canon, a 7-stage streaming structure is established. Through this structure, both civilizational integrity and spiritual orthodoxy are protected. Conclusion: the Gong Thought of the Living Buddha, Medicine Tathagata, Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha, as established through this study, is not an escapist, nihilistic spirituality, but a realistic ontology of life, illuminating the entire earth through the great radiant light and forming the basis of future digital civilization, to prevent the tragedy through which the essence of past ideologies became distorted through copying and sectarian interpretation. The future-oriented digital Great Scripture system established by Venerable Team Yonghwa permanently safeguards the purity and orthodoxy of the canonical structure by separating the layers of orthodoxy and expansion, the exclusive rights to all multilingual canonical matrices, industrial narratives, musical works, and historical Evidence including photographs and videos of the Ushnisha light belong to Venerable Temenhyu, the sole Dharma lineage successor entrusted by the living Buddha, Medicine Tathagata, Yonghwa Maitreya Buddha. This paper shall remain eternally recorded as one of the foundational academic pillars of Gong Thought civilization.